hurting everyone. Absolutely. It's hurting almost 100% of the population, especially the people that are being born right now. This burden will carry them through the rest of their lives.
And we welcome you into the second hour of America's Forum alongside Miranda Kahn, J.D. Hayworth, back with you on this Wednesday morning. You just saw a brief segment of a series of interviews conducted by Caleb Bonham as he informed college students about their share of the national debt.
I'm sure their jaws are like, yeah, the House Budget Committee unveiled their plans for the new budget, but a balanced budget has been elusive over the past several decades. Speaker Boehner pointed out at a leadership conference the federal government has spent more than it's taken in during 53 of the last 60 years.
For 4 of those years where we had things in balance, I was serving in the Congress. At any rate,
Oh, okay.
for more on
Just
the
had to put that
story,
in.
I just had to make sure people,
Of course.
I'm trying to recover from that time in Congress. For more on this story, let's bring in Caleb Bonham, the editor-in-chief of Campus Reform. He's at Newsmax Washington. And from Newsmax New York, our good friend, former Lieutenant Governor of New York, Betsy McCoy. Great to have you both along. Caleb, you made a video and some of the students were clueless, but did some of them really understand what's at stake here?
You know, I don't think anybody honestly understands what's really at stake here, and that's the purpose behind the video that we do. What we believe at the Leadership Institute's Campus Reform is trying to take these really complex ideas and distill them into simple terms, ways that people can start to understand what the real issues are, and that way we can start to find a solution.
Betsy, why?
So what we tried to do was find a way to show these kids how much their lifetime share of the national debt really is. Now, if you go to the Senate Budget Committee's website, and in a odd turn of events when I was investigating what the lifetime share of the national debt really is, you can only find the debt calculator on the Republican side. The Democrats seem to avoid actually having a debt share calculator where you can plug in your birth date and find out how much you owe of how much your share of the national debt is. And so we wanted to show these kids how much they really owed and listen to what they have to say, and they were absolutely shocked.
Caleb, do they understand that this is like their mom or dad going out and buying a new house or a boat or a fancy car and signing their name to the loan agreement instead of the parents accepting the debt, that this is like imposing an enormous burden on them?
Well, so here's the concept behind the video, and this is why we did it in this way, because they don't understand that, Betsy. We wanted to take the positive. Most people can relate to the idea of winning a lot of money, of receiving $1 million. They know what they could do with that. They could buy property, they could invest in real estate, they could invest in the market, they could go back to school, pay off student loan debt, they could start a business. And they understand that in the positive. What they don't understand is the idea that they would be burdened, that they would have this debt liability of over $800,000 for a 20-year-old. That every child born today is born into a country where their lifetime share of the national debt is over $1.5 million. I don't think they understand what that really means for a country that used to be the economic powerhouse of the world and is quickly hurting itself with its inability to, run the country in a financially solvent manner.
Betsy, you know all about numbers and research. The president gave his thoughts on the GOP proposed budget yesterday. Take a listen. I want to get your thoughts.
That I was hoping for a little luck of the Irish as the Republicans put forward their budget today. Unfortunately, what we're seeing right now is a failure to invest in education and infrastructure and research and national defense, all the things that we need to grow.
So, Betsy, the president says you can't get a return unless you invest. Is he right? And do we even have the money to do that?
I love this word invest. I love this word invest because Obama and his party have made spending into invest. Every dollar they spend, they claim is an investment. I'd urge the president to remember that he made a deal back in 2011. We allowed him to raise the debt ceiling more than any president had ever done it before. And the deal was that he would cap spending. But when is a deal not a deal? When you do it with Barack Obama.
Caleb, final 30 seconds to you on this, sir.
Well, President Obama, when it comes to the idea of investing, is not aiming before he shoots, as he likes to call it when it comes to foreign policy. The guy literally is just throwing money around, proposing the idea that if you want to fix something, you just throw money at it. There is no actual strategy behind how this is going to help students. The idea is more efficiency. We need to aim to have higher standards, more accountability for our educators, and that will create a generation of highly educated citizens.
And there's more coming up with both our guests. Stay tuned.
We're a land-grant school, and we were placed there to open the gates of higher education beyond the elites and the children of the privileged. That's still, we think, as noble a mission as there is. That's why we've been so resolute about holding tuition down. The total cost of attendance in Purdue has gone down the last 2 years because we cut the cost of room and board and textbooks as well.
Back now on America's Forum with Miranda Kahn, J.D. Hayworth. That's former Indiana governor, now Purdue University president Mitch Daniels today on MSNBC's Morning Joe, telling us what his school has been doing to try and reduce the costs of higher education.
They need to do something, even as some schools are trying to bring that cost of college down. Students are borrowing money to pay for it at an all-time high. If you can believe it, the rate at which people are acquiring student loan debt is greatly outpacing mortgage debts, JD.
Mercy. With that in mind, let's continue our conversation with Caleb Bonham, the editor-in-chief of Campus Reform, and former Lieutenant Governor of New York, Betsy McCoy.
Caleb, I want to ask you, when you interviewed those students about the national debt, were they also aware of the debt that they're going to have to pay back upon leaving school?
Absolutely, they were. And when you couple the amount of money that they didn't sign up to have to pay back, in most cases, the average college student right now owes somewhere between $800,000 as their lifetime share of the national debt. And that's before you consider all of the unfunded liabilities that America has taken on, the over $127 trillion in unfunded liabilities. But when that is given to them, something they didn't sign up for, and then they start considering all the other forms of debt that they've tackled or that they've taken on, credit card debt, car loan debt, and then their student loan debt. The average college graduate graduates today with over $30,000 in student loan debt. That's a lot of money.
It's staggering.
And the value of the education has decreased over the past years, while the cost of an education has increased. It's increased over 12 times in the past 3 decades.
Well,
the
Caleb,
idea
right
that
on
these
that
kids
point.
Go ahead, Betsy.
Right on that point, that very important point, do you think that the college students have become somewhat insensitive to the actual price tag of their education because of the availability of loans and scholarships? In other words, they used to have to go to work and pay part-time and work part-time and maybe cobble together enough money semester by semester. But now it seems there are so many sources of money to pay for that college, even if they do have to pay it back someday. Is that allowing the colleges to just be more extravagant than ever in their pricing?
Absolutely it is. And you can chalk it up to one thing. It is the mentality that has been advanced by progressives for decades. The idea that education is a right. When you make something a right, it doesn't matter how much it costs. It's a right. We're going to have to do it because in order for me to be successful in life, I have to have an education. I have to have a little piece of paper hanging on my wall that claims I got my degree. It is not merit-based anymore. And so when you make something a right, people just throw money at it. And in this case, when the federal government took over federal loans and guaranteed student loans through Obamacare in 2010, it really enabled the universities the ability to just start increasing the cost or the price of education without considering the fact that the cost of it, isn't necessarily going up. The price is skyrocketing because they know that students believe they have to have an education to be successful in life, and therefore
on that
they will
point,
take
Caleb,
out
on
any
that
amount of money that they need to do so.
Okay, about 1:30 remains. Believe it or not, some folks in the press actually get a clue about the federal takeover of loans. Let's listen to Janet Lauren of Bloomberg News.
That's wild that the federal government is involved in 85% of student loans, is it not?
Well, there was a big change in 2010, and the federal government became the originator of all federal loan debt. And previously, you had private lenders, such as Sallie Mae, could originate federal loans, and they were backed by the federal government.
So the feds have basically taken over the college loan business. They can play fast and loose. Caleb, in the minute that remains, what do you expect the feds to do with these loans to students in college today?
Well, ultimately, there's a bubble that is being created, and they're going to have to deal with that bubble. And we've seen in every other sector of our economy, the federal government is unable to face the reality that sometimes the bubble will burst. They want to be this safety net to all citizens, guaranteeing equal and fair outcomes. And the truth is you cannot artificially create an industry and prop it up without there being some sort of damage when that bubble bursts. And the student loan bubble is going to burst.
Well,
JD,
that is...
in 1 second, the taxpayer is going to end up picking it up.
Yeah, it's going to end up
Exactly.
costing us
It's gonna be
all.
the taxpayer.
And obviously costing those taxpayers who perhaps will finally graduate from college but face that huge debt to go along
But
with
then
their
they're
share of the
facing
national debt.
10.5% unemployment for 25 to 34-year-olds.
Welcome to
How are they gonna pay it
Obamanomics. Caleb, we thank you for your time. Caleb Bonham from Campus Reform. Betsy Miranda and I will be back with former Sheriff Richard Mack of Arizona when we continue.